paper and floating it in shallow trays of, either cool, warm, or hot water. But talk to us about the computer.
So I found that the use of the computer, in a way, it opens an incredibly interesting door of not having to paint everything.
Did you feel liberated when you realized that you could float things in water and the forces of unknown could come to bear in ways that were rather amazing? And likewise, the collages opened up another avenue, even though you're placing by hand.
If I feel liberated, I found I found a fascinating technique to do things that we all know how to drop. How to pour a drop of ink in a moisture surface, and how that color will expand to forms that we find fascinating and we might not know. That's it's a kindergarten experience. We are exposed to things that could marvel us by doing reactions. But what happened with those so-called flotation drawings, as you call them, I think it's I don't think I wouldn't say that I feel liberated. I could say that I found something that I was looking for, and I didn't know that I was looking for that until I saw it, which is to attack the image, not almost if I was tackling, is that word? It came from rugby, yeah, like tackling. From tackling the image from the back, not from the front.
Water as an element, as a primordial element, as something that's completely germane to who you are and where you're from. Buenos Aires being a port city, being surrounded by water. I mean, water is an ubiquitous kind of element, culturally and artistically. You use it before you get to the flotation drawings. You're already using water to activate, violate, and agitate the surface of your paintings.
Yeah.
So that's a part of the conversation that would be of interest.
Yeah, well, that's obviously part of the, I use water as I use oil, so it's a very physical and I'm saying this as I feel like water is a dense medium, not a light. I mean, obviously, it's
not neutral. Liquid, it is not neutral.
But it's dense and it's loaded, and you could do you can harm images very powerfully by using water. So. Yeah, obviously, it's just a tool. In a way, it's also a tool.
You've always gravitated to a subject which ends up being thematic, and you dig in deep. You stay there for as long as it takes to mine it and to excavate it and to develop it. But what is that process exactly, and when are you finished with it?
Yeah, I wonder myself, what's that? I know what you mean, and I think that some of these subjects and this excavation takes as long as it's taken, and I try to dig as deep as I can. Many times that process ends just by boredom or by lack of interest or by indifference, or because the curiosity makes me start to look somewhere else. So they simply get abandoned. But throughout the process, it seems like I just can't stop doing that. A painting is a unit, and as a unit, there is an everything. That's why I think we use the title "Everything in the Show." Everything that it has to be is in there, but that doesn't mean that there's a lot of that's remain doors for finding out somewhere else. So it's funny, and it's very paradoxical that even if a painting is a complete experience, still is what opened the way for the next one. So there are a lot of things that I couldn't resolve or I couldn't see or didn't happen in one work. So there's always the hope that it will happen somewhere else. As you go deep, your field gets expanded. But that doesn't mean that the last work of the series is the best one at all. It's not the one which I'm...
Culmination.
I learned all this experience and now I'm able to do it. It doesn't happen that way sometimes.
So knowledge is not cumulative.
No, exactly.
You have your epiphanies in the process. It could be at the beginning even.
Absolutely. There is a painting that I like very much. It's a very simple architectural configuration and it has a few brush strokes, almost as if the brush strokes wanted to go from one place to another. That work happened early on. I like it very much. And I pretty much felt that the works that happened after that piece were pretty much to find out how I happened to have done that piece. So the quest there was not to go because the door were open to go to newer places, just where I've been. I did this piece, I didn't have a clue how I did it, so my quest was to find out what did I do there that felt so right.
Yeah.
So in a way, the quest was backwards, not forward.
I've looked at that painting a lot and it continues to excite me because I look at what you did with the brush. It's almost as though a snail has crawled across the universe, leaving its trail on an otherwise structured platform. And I feel, I mean, the metaphor is just amazing for me, that we as human beings inhabit space, but in the process of inhabiting space, we leave footprints and we leave ghost tracks. And so what you did with the brush was to violate that structure in a way that was incredibly poetic and ghostly. Both sides of your persona were at play in that.
There was a time where I was probably asking myself what's the purpose of paint, or what is paint, if there is any possible answer to that. And I found that I could paint and physically the action of painting was the one to occupy space. But since I was working with architectural features, I was setting that space. So the space was not a metaphysical idea, it was a physical one. So I could have entered a room with my brush, inhabit that space, and leave. That might be a little bit illustrative. I don't think the painting has that aspect at all. But in a way, I found myself that, okay, I create all these spaces. Now I could enter the space, paint it, and leave. And I found that was pretty physical. Was pretty, felt pretty real.